So today's lecture is depending upon the literary heritage, and I welcome you in this online sessions of the 10th standard, my dear students. This is chapter number 4, and today we are going to learn about the India's literature and the other heritage too here. Now, as you know that generally India's literature is depending upon the ancient and primitive ages also, where the sages and other saints and other people who emerged, or you can say that who gave their contribution towards the literature and also made our cultural theory and basic concept of the religious belief also very prospectus here. So let's talk about this theory in this lecture, and let's talk about this theory very detailedly. The thing which we need to understand, my dear student, is that how the man took his steps towards the development, in which stages he made his life develop well, and in which condition he became one of the more powerful living being of the world here, living creature of the world here. So that's for this lesson is all about this theory related to the literature and the heritage here. Now if you focus on this page, that is page number 30, lesson number 4, SS 10th standard, you will see that language, literature, Sanskrit, other kinds of things are depending upon this kinds of theory which we are going to learn today in this literature here. As we know that over a period of time that India and Indian religious beliefs and many more kinds of things are actually preserved well. Now also it can be seen that out, but if you talk about the expressions, thoughts, if you talk about the conservative language, creation, literature, it's all actually leading with the formation of the human life, their contribution, their religious mythology, their ethical beliefs, and many more kinds of things also. So if you talk about language and literature, they are actually working since our primitive time, and they're also actually working to make our prosperous heritage, to make our cultural heritage remember also here. Now if you go more further in the detail, then I will say that if we take just a quick look about the history, then we can see that emergence of the varieties of the language, literature influence in our India. Another than that, we can say that it also flourished in India. Now flourishment is done only where the people are interested, and Indian people, Indian amalgamated tribes and all, they all were interested in this kinds of literature and the heritage of India too here. Therefore we can say that this literature has been developing in such a wide that the best examples can be seen also today inside the language of Sanskrit, inside the language of Sanskrit literature, then Urdu literature and other kinds of literatures too here. Now generally, my dear student, generally one thing is very pretty sure and common also, that generally language provides the basic information and opportunity for the better experience, or we can say expression towards any kind of things which is related to the India's culture, custom, tradition, belief and art also. As we go more in the detail, then we will understand that India is the most ancient script holding country, where we can say Harappan civilization can be also seen there, and the civilization which has been not actually declining right now also, it is available with the essence and the remains of that state of era too here. Same as if you go more further in detail, then we can say that Maharishi Panini, Charak, Shushruta, Vagbhatas, Aryabhatas and all the kinds of immense contribution towards this kinds of people are also given in the great, we can say, Indian contributed theory towards their kind of own general examples here. So this lecture is not only interested lecture, but this lecture is also packed with the knowledge and the detailed theory related to India literature and related with the science and theories too here, which will make sure to understand in between of this lecture here. Let's talk about the Sanskrit literature. As I said you, basically Sanskrit literature is a very powerful literature which is actually giving the birth to the other literature too here, and along with the Sanskrit we should not forget the name of the great grammarian Panini. So if we talk about, we can say Aryans, Dravidians, Mongolites, Kirat, Hunzas, Hapsis people, lots of people, the tribe came in India, but apart from that we can say that they all slowly accepted the religious belief also, they made also, and they also widened enough for the Indian culture here. Therefore we can say that Indian literature and the culture is basically divided into Vedas too here. Now sections are there, my dear student, you need to understand the sections are there which actually is making the proper benefits with the basic literature and the theory too here. If we talk about the ancient literature, then we need to focus on the basic 4 Vedas: Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samveda and Atharvaveda here. Now what is the Rig Veda? If you talk about the most ancient book, then I would recommend you the Rig Veda. Now what is actually the Rig Veda? See, my dear student, we need to understand some of the ancient literature and the books are there. Okay, including Rig Vedas and all, which is actually consisting more than, we can say, 1028 verses. It is also one of the wonderful work which is divided into basic 10 divisions. That is a Rig Veda. Same as we can say that most of the verses are taken from the prayers of the god only inside the Rig Veda, which are actually described politically, socially, religiously, and we can say that related to the Aryans lifestyle too here, which is actually designed and which is actually connecting with the Sapta Sindhu river system. If we go more in the detail, then we will get the Samved too here, Atharva Ved too, and Yajurved also here. This all the 4 Vedas are described there, my dear student, and that you need to focus and you need to understand also, where I will make you some kinds of detailed theory cleared in this part of the lecture, and we'll also understand about the important topics of the theory in this lecture here. So let's talk about the more basic thing related to the important theories here. Now, Samved, if you talk about the basic 3 Veds, then 3 other Veds were also written there, but if you talk about the Samved, they are composed related with the Samved, and here we can say that hence Rig Veda, then other Yajurved, then other we can say Atharva, and all are actually interconnected with the Samved here. So which is also somehow can be said as the Sangeet or the basic Gangotri music too here. So somehow which is composed of focusing on the process of recitations of the verses also. If you are actually going with the Rig Veda, then you will get the verses 100 or we can say 1028 verses. But how to recite that? That can be seen in the Samved here. Same as if you go more in the Atharva Veda, then we can say that Atharva Veda describes the various types of rituals and their practices also with the sanskaras. What is the method to practice? How it can be related with the sanskaras and all. So this kinds of basic theory is relating with the Ved and Vedic concept too here. Now Atharva Veda is actually, as I described you, which is describing the sanskaras and all. If you can't still understand the Vedas and all, you need to move towards the Upanishads. Now what are the Upanishads? See, whenever there are some kinds of confusions about the life and death, then you can actually get the clearance inside this kinds of literatures only. Therefore, I will tell you that Upanishadic literature gives us a vivid descriptions about the analysis of being formation of the universe, also the mystery of life and death, as I said here. It means that what is Jivan Chakra, what is Karma, what is Bhakti, all the things you will get inside this kinds of Upanishadics only here. So it consists of, we can say that there are more than 108 in all the terms mentioned. Mukti Upanishads also, it's having some of the basic parts also here. Same as this things is related with the Brahmanical literature too here. As I am making you understand, you need to go with the clearing concept too here. So many Brahmanical epic, or we can say epic stories were composed in this kinds of literature. Along with that, we can say Vedic period was also actually somehow we can say interconnected with that here. Now appreciations of this kinds of stories are based on the Vedas only. Therefore, we can say that composing of the poetic form of the literature, the verses and all, and apart from that, we can say Vedic theory, literature, directive principles and their policies also regarding the behavior, regarding the explaining about detailed theory of the human life is also explained in the story form inside this kinds of Brahmanical literature, which is relating with the Aryanas too here, which is also can be said as Aryans, one of the basic literature. It means that Aryanas were generally used as the splendid form phrase related for the Aryans culture. Therefore, we can say that philosophy can be seen there, which is actually one of the best part of this here, in that you will get the deep thinking of that, which is known as the Aryanas. Some of the philosophies of the life is also written there, which is actually making you to distract from all the negativeness and attract towards the positiveness too here. So in this lecture, my dear student, easily we are understanding about the theory of India and the literature too here. Just what you need to do, you need to focus and refer inside the textbooks too here. Now we can say that Aryanas and all the things are related with the moksha, bhakti and other kinds of, we can say, Pandavas and Kauravas youth also, which is actually described in the next paragraph of the Vedangas. Let's get a definition about the Vedangas. What is Vedangas? See here, the Vedangas means what? Vedanga's literature is dealing with the general concept and theory of the, we can say, practicing ritual, grammar, astrology, astronomy, and other things too here. Where we can say some of the epical stories can be also seen inside the Vedangas, like Ramayana, the great epic, Mahabharata. Okay, then you can explore the more of the stories related to the Pandavas, then Kauravas, and other philosophies related to the principles of the, we can say, Jnana, Karma, and Bhakti. What is Jnana, my dear student? Jnana is actually related with the knowledge which is getting from the Guru, or the knowledge which we are getting from the mistakes also. Apart from that, what is Bhakti? Devotion towards the God. Karma, these all things are related with the karma only. What is your deed? That is the karma. So therefore we can say that Jnana, Bhakti, Moksha, Karma are one of the basic pillar of this literature, which is known as the Vedangas too here. See, if you'll go in the more detail, then you'll get the Tripitikas also, and we can say like some of the portions for literature related with the Buddhist literature too here, which is written inside the Pali language, Prakrit language, and which are also giving the great immense contribution towards the Buddhism too here. And if you just ask me, then I'll tell you some of the special work which are done by Kumar Sambhav, then Raghuvanshams and all, then Meghdut, Abhignam Sakuntalam and all, from especially from the Kalidas. So therefore we can say that okay, this all the theories are actually described inside the Vedangas too here. Now Mudra Raksha, Shudrakas, then Kirta Junams and all, then Dashmukh Charitras and all, this all are the basic subjective work where politically actually adjusted, romancefully also adjusted. They are also describing the allegories of the life. They are also describing the comedies of the life related towards the great epical persons and who gave their contribution towards this kinds of literature to here. So as I said, you my dear student, these kinds of literatures are actually dealing with the conceptual theory of the basic from the primitive era to here. As we know that Dravidian languages were divided into basic categories also, that is Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Malayalam, and other language too here. So as we know that according to the literature, Tamil is the oldest of this all literature. As we go more further, then it is actually beginning from, we can say that early from the century of the Christian era to here. I'm getting a proper effect of the theory where I can tell you that actually Sanskrit is also derived from the Tamil literature. It is not proved yet on the paper, but we can say that it is actually described, because Sanskrit is the Devlok Bhumi Bhasha, but Tamil is the mother of all the language. Because just to get one clearance, my dear student, our ancestors were Dravidians. Dravidians came first in the India. Along with that, 6 other tribes came in India. So Tamil is the oldest language now. It's a general theory. Now moving further, we can say that okay, these kinds of things are actually related with the concept of this kinds of literature where you can get detailed information in the textbook too here. Now let's talk about the medieval literature. Medieval literature means what? During the medieval age. Now in the medieval age means we can say that at the time of when the North Indian languages and literature were actually written inside the Sanskrit form of the language. Along with it, we can say that great work were also composed during this kinds of reign of this kinds of periods also, and inside the Sanskrit literature only, and therefore we can say okay, in the Kashmiri language also it was written, and therefore we can say Somadeva's Katha Sarita Sagar is there. Then other like Kalanas, some of the other literatures are also related with that here, like Raj Taranganis and all, are one of the first epical book of India as we generally know here. Other famous books are also there. It's not like that other famous books are not there, but other famous books are also there, like Geet Govind related to the Krishna Bhakti, and the Sanskrit literature is also one of the basic theme in this kind of literature, where the finest poem can be also seen here. As we go more further, then we can say that okay, before this period many other literatures were also written, but they were not famous according to the era, but this kinds of one of the world famous, we can say, literature related inside our concept and theories too here. And apart from that, we can say one of the earliest form of the Hindi literature deal with the heroic performance of Prithviraj, that is Prithviraj Raso. By if you get this kinds of name, then you should write also inside your notebook and theories and diaries too here, because you can remember also. So as I said, you my dear, this is also written in the epic form of the stories related, inspired by Prithviraj, then Prithviraj Raso, by we can say Chandabaris and all, and other kinds of people were also related with this kinds of theories also, where Kannada literature was also famous here. We can say that like Gada Yuddh and all. Most of the literature and the theories are relating with the concept of the general basic examples too here. So if you talk about some of the poem like Pampa, then generally who made generally composition of Ramayana also in the Tamil language, remember my dear. Then apart from that we can say that other famous literature also written inside the Kannada language too also here. Then some of the poems from the Hindi literature to the Sanskrit are also translated here. So this all the things are done, especially we're talking about the Tamil literature too here. Then we can say that most of the Indian literature means the Sanskrit literature were somehow converted into the Tamil or other Telugu languages too here by their regional poets also, so that the moral, the information, the inspiration of this kinds of literature could be exactly and easily read by the people who are not knowing about the Sanskrit and who are not knowing about the Sanskrit related Hindi literature too here. I hope you are enjoying this lecture, my dear student, and this lecture is actually giving you the basic gyan related to the general theory of the concept also here. Where if I talk about one of the books named Chandrayaan, remember my dear, Chandrayaan, which is written by Mullah Dawood, is also one of the basic literature in the Awadhi language, and foremost therefore we can say that it is also one of the some of the allegories are there, some of the critical appreciations of the ancient books still can be seen inside this kinds of Sanskrit literature, my dear student. So this actually theory of the concept is dealing with the general science of the knowledge also, and the general basic fundamental duties with the principles of the ancient literature, theories and the concept too here. Now the most outstanding literature, see, examples, theories are given maximum in this kinds of thing, but we need to focus on the main topics only here. Therefore we can say the most outstanding thing related to the literature and the figures of the period from the Amir Khusro Sahab, we can say that Ustad Amir Khusro Sahab. Then we can say he was one of the poet and the historian also, mystic saint also, and composer of music too here. That's why we need to hold the ears to speak this kinds of Ustad's name. That's a due respect according to Indian custom and culture. And he also actually he was a disciple of Nizamuddin Aulia, okay. So he was actually a disciple of Nizamuddin Aulia, and he wrote about Ashik, the Na spy, then other also stories related to Sifar, and then Kritual, we can say Sadhyan to hear stories and all. Some of the names are quite different and interesting also to read here. And furthermore we can say he also written about Khazana ul Fatah. So that kind of literature can be also seen here, consisting the basic moral theory of this kinds of poet and their lifestyle also. Along with that we can say that he also composed about the great poetry related to the Indian custom, theories, solutions, allegories, romance, many more kinds of things too here, where we can say they already took the pride of the being an Indian literature writer and the poetic heroic performance writer too here in the India, and India praised also them as the, we can say, earthly paradise too. And they also made this kinds of concept right inside their books about the India, which is the earthly paradise. According to them we can say that India is, was, will be the paradise of the earth here. So my dear students, see, these kinds of information whenever I am getting to you, whenever I am giving to you, my dear student, then what you need to understand, you need to understand the date, the concept of the theory, the people name, their work, their deeds, and the basic definition. If you don't understand the definition, you will not understand the theory, my dear student. So before starting a paragraph, I'll making you to understand the definition about the theory and the concept too here. Now we can say that this kinds of bilingual things are happening since from the ancient time of the India, and also the conceptual theory of the India too here. Now he strongly believed that if you talk about knowledge is wealth, okay, that's a general thing, and knowledge is according to the literature only. Knowledge can be trapped inside the literature where the information can be open wide here. So therefore, as I said that Hindi is spoken all about the world here, and Hindi is the mother tongue of our all. But then also we can say that some of the composition of the poetic things were composed in the other two languages here. So he composed verses inside the language, he wrote the languages also in the number of bilingual connotations of the we can say connotations of the other literature and theories too here, where we can say Hindi poem verses were also somehow can be seen in the Persian language. So this I am making you to understand about this literature which was actually going from the Hindi and Sanskrit to the other languages also. Now the healthy tradition of the India by him continued more and more in the centuries. So we are talking about Nizamuddin Aulia's disciple, that was Amir Khusro Sahab here. and this is the basic literature, language and theory of your chapter number 4, literature and the heritage of India. So my dear student, we'll meet together in the other lecture and we'll get the more information. This was part number 1, and I hope you'll keep trying to learn your own beneficial theories of this lesson. You'll get the proper example also. Till then, wait for the next part. Take care. Jai Hind.